It's just a week and a half until this long fall break is finally over in F1 fantasy, so we should probably get back into the swing of things with some early team selection. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Wednesday, October 9th. My name is Ewan. On today's episode, I'm going to go over my early team selection for the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas in a week and a half's time. It's been a long break. We've had some content come out of the channel, so definitely go check that out. I did a late season chip strategy pod, and then I had a great interview with Adam from Fan Amp Fantasy HQ. So go check that out. There should be like a little card popping up right here, right now. Yeah, some fall break content that hopefully has quenched your F1 fantasy thirst. But today's episode will be about some early team selection here. But we had some news over the weekend. Liam Lawson is back in the game a little bit earlier than I thought he would be, and a little bit cheaper than I thought he would be. Like I said, that interview with myself and Adam, we were talking about Liam Lawson a little bit, and we kind of thought he would just come in at the same price as Daniel Ricciardo, but no, 10.2 million for the new V-Carb driver on the grid. Makes him a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. In that interview with Adam, I was talking about how, like, if he's 12 million, it's just like an odd price point. I don't know how we're going to get there, but 10.2 million does open up a little bit of options for us here in F1 fantasy. If you can get to that price point, that's like in the Nico Hulkenberg, Yuki Tsunoda kind of range. So if you have one of those drivers in your team, and Liam Lawson is kind of like piquing your interest, he is definitely an option to go for there, especially with a rumored grid penalty for Lawson taking on new engine in Coda, and that will affect him in the sprint race, which could be good news for his F1 fantasy prospects. But if we just go over here real quick, we can look at what he did last season in F1 fantasy when he took on his little cameo with Daniel Ricciardo. So highlighted here kind of poorly. Thanks to the F1 Fantasy Tools website for this data. So here he was, if you go over here to Zandvoort when Daniel Ricciardo broke his hand going into the wall. 19 points, 5 points, 8 points, and 5 points again in Japan. He did have a DNF in Qatar during the sprint, but in those 4 races there from Netherlands to Japan, he averaged 9.25 F1 fantasy points. As you can see, that's double what Daniel Ricciardo was doing last season in F1 fantasy as well. In fact, because of the way that F1 Fantasy Tools does their website, Liam Lawson actually raised Danny Rick's average in 2023 for his F1 Fantasy points average. So if you can get there, I would certainly consider getting to Liam Lawson. It's not as easy for me to get there this week in Coda, and my options are a little bit boring. So spoiler alert, I'm not sure how many transfers I will actually be making for the US Grand Prix here, but that's kind of where I'm at with my little Liam Lawson analysis in F1 fantasy. But going back over here to the original squad, 124.7 million in the bank here. I've got Lando Norris. I had Oscar Piastri. I was playing around with this a little bit earlier. I had Oscar Piastri right here. And then that leaves me with Joe Guan Yu right around here. So this is the squad that I had for the last race in Singapore. It went pretty well, obviously, despite no fastest lap or drive of the day for Lando Norris. And this is kind of the structure that I will be looking at for Coda right now. Right now, I have 2 chips left. I have the autopilot chip and the extra DRS boost chip. If McLaren looks like they're just going to storm the weekend and the sprint and the Grand Prix, I will probably just stick with this, burn a transfer, and have 3 heading into Mexico the following weekend. Scheduling note, it will be the first race of a triple header here. So it's going to go Austin, Mexico, Brazil, back to back to back weekends. So lots of F1 fantasy content coming out of this channel and all the other content creators. But like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel just so you don't miss any content coming out of here. The options here for my squad are, if Ferrari look a little bit on it, I could bring in Charles Leclerc instead of Oscar Piastri, as they are right on the same price. And click the wrong guy there. There we go. And that could maybe be an autopilot chip kind of thing. But Lando, we were talking about this with Adam, like I was mentioning before. Lando Norris feels like a pretty good set and forget 2X driver for the rest of the season. Both Adam and I have kind of been burned whenever we went away from Lando Norris as our 2X driver. So I think I'm just going to stick there for the rest of the season unless we see some huge gains from Red Bull or Ferrari over the final 6 races of the season. If I wanted to go here, this could also be an extra DRS boost build as well. If Ferrari looks really on it, but you just want to keep the safety of Lando, but it's really hard for me to kind of bring in the new guy on the grid, Liam Lawson. It would have to take like some phenomenal work from Mercedes to kind of pop up out of nowhere. Like I could bring in George Russell, and then that leaves me with enough money to bring in Liam Lawson. But I'm not entirely keen on that. I would have to see some incredible data from Mercedes on F1.com, from the practice debrief, from sprint qualifying, that kind of thing. The thing about the sprint weekends are we've only got one free practice, so we can't get a ton of data from there. And then we got the sprint qualifying. The lineups don't lock until the following day when the sprint race starts, but it's not as easy as it has been in the past few races where we get 3 free practices, lots of data to kind of like churn over, look through, and then make our decisions. So we will have to, based on some limited data, make a pretty like a gut call in F1 fantasy. But as of right now, I don't think I'll be bringing in Liam Lawson. I will be sticking with Lando Norris, Franco Colapinto, Valtteri Bottas, Joe Guan Yu. And then the only decision I will have is should I bring in Charles Leclerc or just remain with Oscar Piastri, burn a transfer, and have 3 going into Mexico? If the data looks strong for McLaren and just have the triple up for McLaren, that would probably be a good time for myself to play the extra DRS boost. Then I just have the autopilot chip to kind of take a punt on in like a wet race or something else is looking kind of sketchy through the last 6 races of the season. But this squad has 124.7 cost cap. But now let's go check out a team that has a little bit more money in the bank. Here's the T3 team right here, 132.7 million in the bank. I'm very jealous of this team's budget compared to my T1 squad. Very similar setup, just kind of like a little bit more expensive drivers here and there. So Lando and Charles Leclerc up top, McLaren and Ferrari as constructors, but then Nico Hulkenberg, Alexander Albon, and Franco Colapinto. 3.4 million in the bank here. So the options are a little bit more interesting. Like I said in the intro when I was talking about Liam Lawson, I've got Albon, I've got Nico Hulkenberg kind of in that Liam Lawson range, especially with 3.4 million in the bank. I can easily just sub out Albon for Liam Lawson if I would like there. I could also get out of like kind of the last 3 budget roulette there. I could upgrade Franco Colapinto all the way up to Pierre Gasly. So that's not a bad option either, but Alpine, I'm just not going to trust them either. The interesting thing that I can do here, if I get rid of Liam Lawson and just bring in Alexander Albon again, if Red Bull look like they are just out of nowhere, the upgrades that they are bringing, it's just going very well for them in Austin. I can take a risky maneuver here with my T3 squad and just jump straight from McLaren to Red Bull with some money to spare. Now, it wouldn't really do me much good. I mean, I could also take out Nico Hulkenberg to get in Liam Lawson as well, but that would give me 1.1 million in the bank here. It would be risky. I would like be taking a leap here. The squad is like top 1,000 in the world somewhere. So it could be just time to make a big move if I want to push this squad up into the top 500 or something like that, especially as teams are kind of getting more and more similar as the races dwindle down in the F1 Fantasy 2024 season. I've got 3 free transfers as well. However, if that's not really the sensible option, like I could keep Charles Leclerc, I could bring in Oscar Piastri, whoever looks stronger out of Ferrari and McLaren, and kind of just triple up there. I could also bring in Carlos Sainz and just do some crazy stuff, but I don't really want to go there either. It would have to be phenomenal data for Ferrari to get the triple up there. But Nico Hulkenberg, Alexander Albon could all use an upgrade. Franco Colapinto could go up to Pierre Gasly. Like I was talking about there, I would have exactly enough money to bring in the Frenchman into my squad. But Franco Colapinto is performing really well. He's doing quite nicely in the budget building aspects. Alexander Albon, we'll have to see. He is the most likely candidate that I would upgrade to Liam Lawson, especially with a grid penalty coming along for Lawson here, potentially. Not officially confirmed yet, but it sounds like that's going to happen. Nico's been driving really well this season. I wouldn't really want to get rid of him. Haas, home race. Are they going to bring something that can kind of push them a little bit further up the grid as well? So Liam Lawson, maybe just it could be like a Charles Leclerc and Liam Lawson to a Oscar Piastri, or Charles Leclerc and Alexander Albon to a Oscar Piastri and Liam Lawson kind of build here for me in F1 fantasy. That would still give me 3 free transfers to roll over into Mexico to kind of still adjust to whoever looks good. Mexico will be more of a normal race weekend in F1 fantasy where we'll have 3 free practices, then the qualifying, then the Grand Prix. However, then there's another sprint after that in Brazil. So rolling the transfers, having 3 free transfers every weekend, if you can get there, is going to put you in a position of strength to kind of adjust to any late season upgrades, updates that are coming to each of the top squads. Mercedes still hanging around. They're not really in my thinking right now for Coda, but I'll read into it more over the weekend. We'll get some more data, see what kind of they're bringing to the table over the final 6 races, or if they're just moving their concentration over to the 2025/2026 regs that are coming through here in F1 over the next couple of years. But that's really going to do it. There's not a lot of I can do here with this, with either of my squads. I mean, I got some money in the bank here. And I'll upgrade Liam Lawson from Alexander Albon just to have fun with it, maybe a differential, get ahead of some zombie teams that are maybe just hanging around. But yeah, I think that's really it for the early team selection. I'll be back with green flag, yellow flag, red flag for the United States Grand Prix on Monday. And then I will be back with the Grand Prix preview and final team selection on Wednesday. No live streams for me next week as I will be on vacation, but then I will be back ready to go for Mexico, Brazil, and then the final triple header of the season where it's going to come fast and furious for us F1 fantasy managers. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Any support is greatly appreciated. Comment below with your lineup dilemmas heading into the US Grand Prix. I know it's early. We're still a week and a half out from any like actual racing happening on the track, but got to get your brain back in the F1 fantasy swing of things. And don't forget to check out the late season chip strategy episode and my interview with Adam from the Fantasy Formula. Once again, it was great having him on. But yeah, follow me on X at F1U and FPL. And once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I will talk to you next.